I'm here to talk about leadership and business. And I'm running a church in Sweden. We call it e-church. It started like an online church because I'm a businessman to start with. And people started to get saved around me. And I didn't know what to do with them. So I put up only thing I knew about, a conference call. So once a week I made a conference call and I said, you can call in, and we call it e-church, online church. Email, e-church, electronic church, whatever. So people started to call in, and after a while I had more than 100 people calling in every Thursday night. And we called it a church for those who does not go to church. And the pitch was very easy. I asked people, you never go to church? No, never. Then it's for you. They said, oh, really? So they called. And they got saved. Talking about marketing. Finding something that attracts people. So that grew, and every Thursday we had 100 people calling in, listening to the Word of God, 30 minutes preaching. And then they wanted to meet. And so I said, what shall we do? I have a big home, countryside, a farm. So I invited them every 6th week, Saturday, to my home on barbecue. And they came. And the pitch was, you like barbecue? Then come. And then we had 2 meetings, and we shared the communion, and we baptized people. That's what we did. So people started to get saved even more. And after another year, they requested me to start a church. And I said, I'm not a pastor. They just say, yes, you are. You're my pastor, because you're the only one who I'm listening to, and you're the one who brought me here. So I ended up starting a church. So 5 years ago, I started a church. So I'm a businessman and been struggling with that to change that. Because I thought I'm not holy enough, like Peter here. I mean, he's a pastor, everybody can tell, But I'm a businessman. Can you imagine a businessman starting a church? So out of that, I learned a lot, because that has to change my way of looking at myself. And that changed my way of teaching leadership. That changed my way of who you are and what God called you to be. Because I learned things after I starting that progress and that development. So first people called me an evangelist, and I said, oh no, I'm not an evangelist. Then I realized maybe I am an evangelist, because people get saved. Okay, maybe, okay though, evangelist. Then they called me pastor, and I fought that title for so many years. And then I am a pastor because people follow me. Only because of that, not because I am something, only because they follow me. And now people call me apostle. They never give up. So now they call me apostle. I say, I'm not an apostle. Did you read about them? They're supposed to die somewhere. I'm not. So you know how it is. And now I was in a conference a couple of months ago, and they did, how to say, they took over. Those who called me an apostle, they took over, and they said that they had prophets in the house, so they anointed me to be an apostle. So now I said, what shall I do with that? I went home to the hotel and I washed away the oil they put on me. I said, I'm not jumping on that easy. So I'm still a businessman. And if you ask my wife, I'm probably nothing. You see? So this is what I want to talk to you about today, because you are something, and God called you to be something. And you are made for great things. But there are things in the society, in the world, that trying to limit the call God has put on your life. And that I want to address that today. So I will give you my keys of being a leader, what I learned by growing up. I was born a missionary son, lived 12 years in Africa. I'm black on the inside, I used to tell the people. White on the outside, but black on the inside. I spoke African language before I spoke Swedish. I was sitting in the back on a babysitting girl carrying me around in the villages in Africa. I was the white-headed child among all my black friends. I grew up there, so I know everything. I grew up in a Christian home. It doesn't help at all, because there are challenges by growing up in a Christian home. So as a grown-up, when I came to Sweden, suddenly I realized there was a world out there that I didn't know about when I grew up in Africa. So I went out, living that world, as a grown-up, I didn't leave God, but I did it my way. Until I was like 30 or something like that, 32, I did bankruptcy with all my companies. 5 companies went down. And I thought my life was over because I was pushing as a businessman. And afterwards, I realized it was the calling on my life and the anointing that made me start as a businessman and the only thing was I didn't involve God in it. So I failed. I lost 5 companies. I lost everything. I spent 1 week crying, sitting there thinking everything was over. You know, you go from millions to nothing. And after 1 week, I decided, no, I'm not going to give up. So I dressed up and I went out. I dressed for success. And people thought I was a success. And after a while, they believed I was a success. So they made me a success. You know, it's all about that, what you show people. So to put in something spiritual in this that you can use and that you can learn from. I just had a conference in my church called Arise and Shine, because your light has come. And we gather businessmen from all over Sweden because there is a switch coming. I used to go to business conferences, and I'm so sick and tired of them because the hidden reason for a business conference is that there is a need that they want to take up offerings for. Or there is a need that they want you or somebody else to cover. Yeah, we're going to change the carpet in the church. Let's have a business conference and tell them how good they are. And then take up an offering and then thank you very much until next time. You know, and business people are important sources in a church, but they are not the necessary source if they don't behave. You know, if they behave, they can sit in the front row. If not, we rather don't want to have them there. And I grew up like that. I grew up in a church that didn't treat business people as a calling from God, just as a source for my own calling. And I experienced that so many times, so I get so tired about it, so I turned away from God because it didn't feel right. Until I heard a preacher preach about money, and I understood that God is interested in me and my money, not just in my money. So I started from there. So what is a leadership? I'm just warming up a little bit because I need to get into this with everything. So we just had a pandemic. And the pandemic kind of closed down the whole world for 3 years now, more or less. And you know, we lost the flow. We were going somewhere. But the pandemic came and it stopped a lot of leaders. Because we thought that the people were going to lead, they disappeared. And they thought that the leader they're going to follow, he disappeared or she disappeared, so nothing happened. It became like an empty space for the society and the spirit of Antichrist to take over, to tell us other things. So we are suffering that. But you know, the calling is the same. And we are here. How many businessmen and how many consider yourself as a businessman or businesswoman, and how many consider yourself as a leader? How many consider yourself as a businessman, a woman? Okay, good. Man, you are called to earn money. Wow. Millions, billions. That's your calling. That's your destiny. And somebody's trying to hinder you from that destiny. But that's where we are going. I am a businessman. I'm here for the billions because we need the billions. Jesus said once again he will shake heaven and earth. And all the Gentile people and the glory and the finances and the riches will come to this place. So you are here preparing to take care of it, you know, and to transform it into souls. You have your best time ahead of you. How many consider yourself as a leader? Wow, great, great. We will have a good day today because we will talk about leadership and we'll talk about businessman. We will divide it a little bit because I believe it's the same with different sources and different directions. So when I usually talk to business people, I'm just trying to make us feel one. Because my life is about failures. My life is about earnings. My life is about victories. My life is about experience. And when I look back today, I see that God had used everything in my life. I lost everything. I earned everything. I did everything. I did mistakes with everything. That's feelings that I have. But the sum of that has made me to, I believe God can use me for big things. Because I'm not interested in myself anymore. I tried that part. So I really believe God can use me for big things. I'm running a business today. I'm doing a 7-figure income in my business, and I'm focused on my church. That was my dream. I have business in 50 countries. I have more than 500,000 people in my team that I'm leading and working with, and my business is running and working in all those countries. I'm traveling, training leaders, and the business is growing. That's a dream. I believe you need to earn money and you need to focus on the kingdom. As a leader, we're going to take Toronto. We're going to take Canada. We're going to support your church. We're going to lead your church and the revival in this place. That's why you're here. And this is what we have to see. This is what we have to start with. So we have to blow the dust away from everything that's all the layers of dust that have been piled up the last years or your whole life. We need to blow it away. And when Jesus came, Jesus, he didn't trust the big numbers. He loved the big numbers, but he didn't trust them. He didn't build with the big numbers. He was building his ministry with small numbers, with the people who he could trust, with the few ones who choose to follow him, not the big numbers who came for the miracles. He didn't trust them. They came for a need, not for a calling, not for a decision, not for a commitment. You are here. Maybe we're 100 people here today, and you are here for a reason. There's another couple of 100 people that are not here today because they are different than you. And you have to see that. You are here because a reason. You are here because something on the inside is setting you apart from the other couple of hundreds who choose not to come. And already there you can see that you are different. You are totally different because God has great things stored up for you. And that's why you're here. When I read in the Bible, Jesus was ministering to the big crowds. And he fed them, he healed them, he preached to them, he did all that kind of stuff. But when it came to fellowship, he had some few. And one day, Jesus experienced revival. He went from 12 to 70 in one day. And he said, whoa, what's going on? I mean, that's a couple of 100% in increase. Can you imagine the church? You're going for 500 people to like 10,000 people in a day. You would say, oh, where did all those people come from? And why did they come? And Jesus was the same. So he gathered people and said, why are you here? And probably the disciples were happy, saying, Jesus, we are growing. We are not 12 anymore. We are 70. Can you imagine? It happened from one crusade where you fed the 5,000 and now people are coming and we are growing. Is this what you are talking about? We are building your government on earth. And Jesus said, no. Why are you coming? I know why you are coming. You're coming because of the miracles. You're coming because of the bread. You're coming because of you saw me doing to the people. But I'm telling you, if you are not coming because of me, if you're not ready to eat my flesh and drink my blood, I don't want you. And they say, oh, that's a hush talking. That's really bad. Jesus, that's how you treat people that's coming to your church and really want to follow you and be a part of what you are doing? And he said, I don't want you. So he sent them away. And then he turned around to the disciples and said, do you want to go as well? He was ready to send them away as well. Because his calling was not depending on the disciples. He was ready to carry out that by himself. because he owned the calling. He owned the mission that God has put on him. He didn't look around for supporters. He was carrying. He was the mission. And as a leader, sometimes we are missing that. We're looking around to see if people support us. We're looking around to see if people is applauding us. We're looking around to see if they're following us even. But Jesus, he was not depending on that. He said, those 70, I don't need you. You know, it's too easy. It doesn't work like that. And then he turns to the 12, asking them, are you also leaving me now? If that's the way, do it now, because now you have a window time you can leave. Make up your mind. Because for him, it has nothing to do with his calling. His leadership to save the world has nothing to do with the people followed him, or the disciple singing his praise, or supporting him. So he was ready to throw out the whole church. Isn't that amazing? If I was Jesus, I would be taking care of the few 12 that I had that choose to follow me. But he didn't. He gave them the choice to leave him, because his leadership was him leading. And that's what we have to step into. We're living in a time where we can't trust the praise of people. We can't trust even the praise of the few. Because the calling we want them to step into as a result of our leadership is not praising us. It's taking up the same calling from the same source. You see, you are called, you are chosen. And you know, leadership is about creating followers. And followers is the first step to become a good leader. And it goes together. So running a church like this, you are a key person. You have to understand that the calling of the church is manifested in you and through you. And you can't complain about anything. You can't trust on anything else but yourself when it comes to your calling. Are you ready to run the race? Are you ready to stand up when other people leave? Are you ready to move forward when other people go backwards? Are you ready to stand for something? Or do you want to fall for everything? You know, you have to make your choices. That's the leadership we have to enter in today. Home in my church, you know, it's an empty thing. Not an empty thing. It's a full thing with people. But it's a lonely position to be as a leader. Because the church is there because I started it. And you have started something. You started out something that you have to fulfill. You started out something that you have to fulfill because you are a leader. Not because somebody put you there, because you said yes to it. And the moment you said yes to that leadership responsibility, it's not somebody who endorsed you anymore, it's you taking it on. And you have to run with it. And Jesus is coming back soon. Very soon. We can see that. We hear rumors of wars. Check. Yes, we do. I live 1 hour airways from Kiev, where they are bombing. 1 hour ahead. He even threatened to invade Sweden as a by-the-way thing. Now, without anyhow is invading, I might take Sweden as well because we would need that. That's not funny. He threatened to invade Sweden. The other week, we had 2 or 4 Russian fight jets entering Swedish airspace, and they were equipped with nukes. Can you imagine? Over Swedish airspace, there are nuclear capacity flying around over our airspace. So the world is changing. And the Bible says this will happen, we will hear about it, but don't be alarmed because this has to happen. I'm still in control, and you still have to carry out what I called you to do. So now is the time to call for leaders that stands up and say, I'm ready for this time. For a time such as this, I've been called. This is my race. This is my challenge. This is what I'm made for. This is what I called for. And this is what I'm ready for. That's what we need. The rest, forget about it. It's not time to wine and dine. We had all those years we could do that. Now is the time to go to war and to accomplish what God has called us to do. I have a verse that I'm standing on for our church. It's from Exodus 34 and verse 10. And this verse is keeping me going because this is so powerful. God says, behold, I make a covenant before all your people. I will do marvels such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation, and all the people among whom you are shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you. This is a calling. This is a word that includes you. God's going to do some amazing things through you. And the people you live among, they will be amazed because what God will do through you, that's something He will do through you. Not that you will do. He will do it through you. This is what we are looking for. This is what we are looking for. And this is what we are stepping into. I'm running a church. I know exactly what we need for success. I mean, we are handing out Bibles. We're doing open house. We're doing alpha courses. We're doing everything. Nothing will happen if we don't allow God to do it through us. You see? So we need people according to God's heart to step up for times such as this. So, when it comes to leadership, Jesus didn't trust the crowds. He only trusted the few. Hallelujah. And He was ready to send them away. Wow. So what is your calling? I will address business people in my next session. I'm just talking a little about the leadership, commitments. Somebody said that commitment is the willingness for pain as a price towards a benefit. That's commitment. The willingness of pain as a price towards a benefit. That's commitment. You know, when you do it anyhow. I lose a leg, it doesn't matter, I'm going to do this. You lose a hand, I'm going to do this. You know, commitment. We need that in our marriages, we need that in our businesses, we need that in our churches, we need that in our leadership. We need committed people who's not going by feelings, but going for what they know and what they're committed to do. You know, paying the price. We have a story in the 2nd King where we can read about a dying prophet. Elisha is on his way to die. And you know, all the kings that lived around him, they were wicked kings. Like every 2nd king, he did a little repentance, but the next king brought it back to darkness again. It was like a mess in that time. And the prophet was trying to keep them, you know, anyhow, a little bit straight, you know, for the people. So he was dying now. And Joash, one of the kings, a wicked king, came to him and said, my dad, you are dying. He called him dad. Because the prophet was there as a last line defense for the nation. And the prophet was going to die now. And when he was there on his dying bed, we can read from 2 Kings chapter 13 and from verse 14. Elisha had become sick with the illness of which he would die. Then Joash, the king of Israel, came down to him and wept over his face and said, "Oh, my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen." So that was a one-man army. One-man defense army that was going to die. So the country will stand without defense. Because the man who was defending the country, the chariots and the horsemen, he was on his way to die. And the king was kind of knowing that. He didn't respect it, he didn't follow it, but he had it as a security. And the man of God said, "Okay, I will hand it over to you. So get the bow and get some arrows. And we're going to do something here that will give you what I've been carrying." And the king, of course, he probably was happy because he will hand me the army, the one-man army. He will hand over to me. So the prophet, he arranged for them, so they brought the arrow, the bow, and some arrows. He took to himself the bow and some arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, put your hand on the bow. So he puts his hand on it, and Elisha put his hand on the king's hand. And he said, open the east window. And he opened it. Then Elisha said, shoot, and he shot. And he said, the arrow of the Lord's deliverance and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for you must strike the Syrians as a peak till you have destroyed them. So he shot the arrow, and it went out. Then he said, take the arrows. So he took them, and he said to the king, strike the ground. So he struck 3 times, and he stopped. He struck 3 times, and he stopped. This is a leadership problem. This is a commitment problem. This is what we are facing still today. God is calling people. They say yes, because it feels good, it is good, and it will give you the position, it will give you the feeling and everything. But the commitment is lacking. So in your leadership, God is asking you to shoot the arrow of deliverance for the purpose you're called for, and then take up the arrow and struck the ground. And that will determine that you will defend the enemy God has called you to defend, either if it's in your business or in your leadership. And the king, he was the king. So who tells the king to do anything? Who tells the leader to do anything? You know, I'm free. I'm a leader. I'm here because I want to, and nobody tells me anything. I'm a leader. God has pointed me. But you know, the way you take up the arrows and struck the ground will determine what kind of leader you are, especially in the church. Because we are called to fill this pavilion. We are called to increase our borders, we are called to take over the city. And the thing is, if Jesus was here today and walking the streets of Toronto, multitudes would follow him. And he is here through you and me. But there's a different, the commitment. The commitment that we are carrying compared to the commitment that Jesus carried. He was ready to send away even the 12. Because he was so convinced what he was called to do, so he was ready to do it by himself. He was here to win the world. It would be easier to have people helping him. But he said, if you're not committed, I don't need you. So the king took up the arrows and he struck the ground 3 times, and then he stopped. And the prophet got mad. He said, what are you doing? Are you stopping? When I'm telling you, by doing it, you will destroy your enemy, and you do it like 3 times and you stop. You should have continued at least 6 times, 7 times, until you break the arrows, until there's nothing left to strike with. Because then your enemy would be totally gone. So the king has still to fight the enemies for the rest of his life. Because he didn't pick up the mission that was given to him with commitment of doing it. And most of us, we are from other churches. Most of us, we have experience from other denominations, from other conferences, from other way of doing things, from other leaders, from our pastors, and we know. Yeah, we know. You know, there's no time to know anything. The only important thing today is to run with what the calling that we have. We can't pick up old experiences and hiding behind them like, yeah, I was in the church and I saw what will happen. You don't forget about what will happen. If you are thinking like that, you will be the reason for why it will happen like you say it will happen. You will bring that in here. You can't bring that here. You have to focus on Jesus. You have to follow him. When Jesus asked the disciple to leave him, Peter said, Jesus, where should we go? There's no place to go for us. We are lost in you. Without you, we have nothing. You know, you need to renew that. You need to decide again who you are, whom you're following, why you're following, and what you're called to do. You young people, come on. In 5 years, you're running the church. Okay, Nathan, you're still here. You have to see that. You will lead revival. I mean, Toronto is known for airport revival. We didn't have a revival last night at the airport, I can tell, but it's known for airport revival. And that revival is nothing compared to where we are heading. And you are here because you are predestined to be in the front of that revival. And everything we'll do has to be valid and transformed into souls. I'm a businessman. I mean, you know, money is the root of all evil. That's what we think. But it doesn't say that. It's a love of money that destroys everything. The money is a good thing. We need all the money. Oh no, don't bring the money here. Money is dead. Money is nothing. Money will only do what the owner tells it to do. You know, money is a big storyteller. It tells people what's already in your heart. You know, if I take up drug money here, the moment I lay my hands on it, it goes from drug money to Stefan money. It will just be an extension of my heart. Money is not evil. The love of money is evil. So if you can stop loving money, you're safe. You can have all the money in the whole world. If you can get the shiny part out of the gold, so it doesn't shine anymore, you can have all the gold in the whole world. And it will bring revival. It will bring Jesus back. You see? Money is a dead thing. Has nothing to do with reality. You will tell people. Money will tell people who you are. That's what it does. Money will tell people what's in your heart. If you want to know somebody, ask to see the checkbook. Then you know everything about them. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah, I see. Okay, understand. Yeah. You know everything about a person because money will tell you that. You see? If I hold up a $100 bill here, it's not an evil thing. It's an important thing because that will help you to do what God has put in your heart. We need all the money. We need to earn the money. We need to have the money. And then we give it to Peter and he will use it. I'm sure he will. Because this is what we are called to do. So leadership goes together with the marketplace and there where we are supposed to be. Another thing before we go over into something else, you know, when you look about the Israelis, when they were there, the Levites, they were only 3% of the people. They were called to be in the temple. 3%. That means that with 100 people here, 3 of us has a calling to carry a microphone. The rest of us are supposed to be on the marketplace. But somehow we mix that up and we believe to serve God I need a microphone. No. You don't need a microphone to serve God. You have to get yourself out there. Start serving Him at the marketplace. Building your big companies. Leading people, healing the sick, preaching the gospel, you know. You don't need to be in church fighting about a microphone. You know, microphone fever doesn't do anything. When I went through Bible school, everybody was dreaming about a microphone. And, you know, there's limited numbers of microphones that you can use. So if that is what it takes, you will be a disappointment to yourself because there won't be microphones for everybody. They're not supposed to be. Not if you look at those numbers. And I mean, 3 out of 100, I think it's good. We don't need more on the platform. The rest of us, we run with the business, with the calling, with what God has put into our life. So take up the arrows and strike the ground. And don't stop striking the ground until you know that you have defeated your enemy. And then you go out and you do it. That's a calling on your life. Your time is ahead of you. The glory is waiting for you. It's all there. It's all there. It's predestined for you. You're called to it. You have it. You're carrying it. You just need to change your identity and start doing it. When my wife went through Bible school, after all my bankruptcies, it was my bankruptcies. She was not guilty. It was me. I did all the bankruptcies. She was sitting in a Bible school, and we were so poor. We were so poor. We had nothing. So we moved to a great church just because we wanted to hook up with the Word of God. So we left our home, we left our families, we moved to a church where we heard that we were preaching what we needed, you know. So we moved there as a family. We had nothing. People gave us food, people paid our bills. We have nothing really. And she was sitting there in Bible school, and one day there was a preacher there teaching, and he said, God is just telling me in this room there are 3 people who God is calling to become millionaires. Out of the blue. And you know, it was like 500 Bible students. And my wife was sitting there, you know, and she don't believe anything about herself. Everybody will tell her, but she won't believe because she's so opposite to me. I will tell people what I believe. They will tell her what they believe, you know. So she's opposite to me. So she was sitting there, and the guy went straight down, find her behind the pillar and say, God is calling you to become a millionaire. And we had 4 kids. She was home with the kids. And she said, this is not me, it's a mistake. But I said, no, now you think in your mind that this is a mistake, but God said, no, I don't do mistakes. I'm calling you to become a millionaire. She had nothing. But life turned around. She started with a business. And she was crying every day because she was so afraid of talking to people and outspoken and all like that. She was crying for the first year almost, you know, struggling. But she became a millionaire out of that one word that she believed and started with. You know, God is not religious. God is not a religious God. If He called you, He will make it happen, but you have to allow Him. You have to see yourself according to the calling God has put on your life. My life has been a struggling of my self-esteem, my self-image, because everybody told me to be quiet or sit down or don't mess up or don't do anything and don't show up. We don't need you. They told me that. I went to school. I was a failure. So I ended up in farming school. I'm a professional farmer. I know how to milk cows and drive tractors and smell like a cow. And when I was 20 years old, the most beautiful girl in the whole world came up to me and said she loved me. And I said, wow. So I married her immediately before she changed her mind. You know, that was the first good thing I did in my life. And then she started to work on me. So and I was milking cows, you know, and after 1.5 years, she said, Stefan, I can't stand this anymore. I can't stand the smell. So one day when I came home from milking cows, she have called and booked me in for an interview for a company to start selling products. And that was selling vacuum cleaners for Electrolux, knocking doors. And I couldn't talk to people. I was so shy. I couldn't go up in school in front of people and say anything. I was so shy. And she booked me in for an interview to knock doors and sell vacuum cleaners. Can you imagine? And I was like 21 years old. I said, well, what have you done? So I went to the interview. I didn't have a shirt. I borrowed my dad's shirt. I didn't have a tie. He put one on me. I didn't have anything. I looked like an alien. So I went up there and I came there, and that was the first time somebody told me, oh, wow, are you Stefan Edefors? We've been looking forward to meet you. And I thought, what have she told them? You know, like Peter did the other Sunday. What have he told them? And a new world opened up for me. I was looking on a video telling me that I was a chosen one for Electrolux and I can succeed and I can sell vacuum cleaners. I can become a leader. I can go all over the world and establish businesses for them. And I believed the message. So I was sitting there, a farmer boy, smelling like a cow, sitting there watching a video and believing the message. And everybody was happy. They were singing, Electrolux, 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 and everybody was happy. I said, I want that. So I went out and they said, yeah, do you think this is for you? I said, yes, it is. I signed a contract and went home. And they said, now when you're going home, remember, not everybody will applaud you. They will say that this is a scheme. Nobody buys vacuum cleaners for somebody knocking a door. They will tell you that you made the wrong decision. I said, no, they won't. So I went home. I stopped by my mom. She said, Mama, I'm starting a new job. She said, oh, finally, what is that? And I just felt in my spirit, don't tell her. I said, I will, yeah, I will become a boss. She said, a boss? What's that? No, I will, a salesman. Yeah, what kind of thing will you sell? Vacuum cleaners knocking door. She said, are you crazy? She just told me how wrong everything was. Everybody I told about my decision told me how stupid I was. Then I started. And you know, the training was about 4 days training about how to knock doors. I never knew that there are different ways to knock a door. I was training there for 4 days. And a script, a 3-page machine written, typed, that I was supposed to know, no, 4 pages, just to memorize and know without reading. So I was standing there knocking the doors, you know, and I was sweating and I was, you know, trying, you know, with another guy pretending he's a customer. And you know how you knock a door? You want to know that? You know, you're standing in front of the door. And normally you goes up, and then you step back and you wait. They say, no, you can't do that. What are you doing? I say, I just pushed. That's not the way. You walk up to a door, because people say, oh, what's that? You walk up to a door, you stand there, oh, who's that? And they come to the door and they open, you know, already there. I didn't know. So I was training for 4 days. And what to say when they open the doors. You know, then you stand on the side, on the swing side of the door, so when they open, you take a step and they can't close the door. You know, there are tricks for everything. You can learn things. And then you need to talk yourself into the house. And when you're there, you need to talk about how beautiful the house is and what you're doing. Oh, you know, excuse me, I'm forgetting what I'm here for. I believe you have a vacuum cleaner. Yes, I have. Okay, you know, when we go around, we are looking after what's already here, so can I take a look of it? Oh, is this the place where you had the beauty? And then you go there and you pick up the vacuum cleaners and you start talking about the vacuum cleaner. And then you have the, you know what, I'm going to show you something. You leave the vacuum cleaner that they have, you go out again, you go down to your car, you bring a big suitcase, like you're carrying your mother-in-law with you, you know, carrying it up. And then you need to come back in again. So how do you come back in again in a house where you just left and they're happy, oh, we got rid of him? How do you come back in again? Oh, no, we're not going to open. And then they see, I left my things on the table. Oh, we have to let him in. So they open. Okay, yeah, you're back. Yes, I'm back. Oh, beautiful weather outside. Oh, wonderful garden. Have you lived here for long? Oh, let me see here. Is this the living room? Can we go in? And then they follow you. You go in there. And you put down your big case and say, oh, beautiful. Is that your grandchildren over here? Wow. Do they live by? Amazing. How long have you lived here? Yes. Okay, let me see here. The reason why I'm here. Please, take a seat. Husband, can you sit there? Wife, can you sit there? Leave a space in the middle for me. And they follow you because you trained it. And then you say, now I'm going to show you. And then the show starts. And you end up 20 minutes later by signing up and selling a vacuum cleaner. It's easy. You know, it's easy. Everybody can do it. Don't you think? I was going on for 4 months without selling anything. And I say, my name is Electrolux, I'm coming from Stefan Edefors, and I don't know what I'm doing, and oh, you know, and people didn't let me in even. And then they started to let me in, and I was cleaning houses every day. I didn't sell anything. Now my wife was crying every night. I didn't sell anything, you know, but I was happy. Yeah. And people ask me, how does it go? Oh, good. Oh, yeah, I see that you're good at this, yes, but I didn't sell anything. I was no threat to them. I was cleaning the house for free, every day for 4 months. I sold my first sales. I was cleaning the house, and he was sitting there, and it was like, yeah, you know what, no, we don't want anything. But I'll show you anyhow, yes. And then he said, you know what, Stefan? You're good. I'm going to buy one. I said, yeah, of course. What did you say? I never sold one. But I pretended like I was the CEO of Electrolux, visiting them, selling everywhere, everywhere, to everybody. So he believed me finally. He said, I take one. I didn't know how to sell. Because for 3 months, I was cleaning without selling. So I forgot. Normally, your applications for sell is on the top of your suitcase. Mine was under everything. I have to look for it. So I have to admit to him, you know what? I never sold one before. He said, you're crazy. I thought you owned the company. So I was sitting there reading the manual, and he was filling out the forms. That's why I sold my first vacuum cleaner. So then after 4 months, vacation came, and everybody was, oh, finally a rest. I was sitting there on my vacation thinking, what shall I do? Shall I leave my calling? Shall I leave Electrolux? Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Oh, what shall I do? And I was thinking and thinking. And my wife said, oh, finally you have to do something else. I mean, we are going bankruptcy. And I tried to stop. Every time I heard, Electrolux, Electrolux, and it was inside here, playing. Every time I tried to take a decision to quit, Electrolux, Electrolux, Electrolux. I couldn't. I want this. So I called my boss. He said, yes, Stefan, I understand. I respect you. You did everything. I mean, I understand. You really tried, so I understand. He was just begging me to quit. And I said, you know what? I've been thinking about it. He said, good. I said, I'm coming back. He got a shock. Because inside, Electrolux, Electrolux, oh, Electrolux. Everybody was happy from the movie that I saw. So I couldn't quit. So I went back my 5th month, and something happened. I sold 61 vacuum cleaners in 20 days. 61 vacuum cleaners in 20 days. And I broke all the records. Suddenly, I was famous in the company, my 5th month. I worked another 3 months as a salesman. Then I became the sales manager. From 0 to hero. And that 5th month, when I broke the record, I earned more that month than I would have done if I stayed in my previous job and worked 5 months altogether. That changed my life. So, if people are engaging me to speak in companies today, they're not paying me for being good. They're paying me for those 4 months when I didn't sell anything. That's what they're paying me for. So it turns out that those 4 months was the best paid month in my whole life because I'm still earning money on it. It pays me every month. I didn't know it then, didn't feel like that. But I'm going somewhere. And I have something guiding me. Electrolux, Electrolux. I was following that. And it took me somewhere because I was listening to the play that I had. And I was following it, and something happened, and that became my life. And we all have those things. We all have those things. Today people say, oh, you're an evangelist, you're a salesman. Yes, maybe I was, but I wasn't. I wasn't. But a calling, a gift changed everything. And a response to a gift changed everything. So what you are used to be has no importance on what you are or where you're going to be. This is a start of something. And you draw a line and you step over and you get your own song, Electrolux, Electrolux, and you just follow that signal, you follow that calling, you follow that voice of the Spirit, and you will see where you end up. You will be famous for something. You will be good at something. People will look at you as an example for something if you start following that. But you need to pick up the arrows and you need to strike them until you know that you know that you know that you have defeated your enemies. You don't stop beating those arrows. That's your commitment. That's where you become something, where you will reach somewhere and accomplish things, great things. And God needs you. The church needs you. And you need yourself. You will become who you are when you follow those signals. You just have to pick it up. Believe in yourself. There are people here that will tell you what I'm telling you today. They will keep on telling you that until you believe it, if you allow them. But you have to believe it. You have to decide, my business will take a quantum leap this year. It will change. My business will change. My identity is not in a bad product. My identity is in being a successful businessman and businesswoman. That's your identity. My identity is not being a lazy church member. My identity being a leader in a great church of the living God. That's my identity. He's going to use me, flow through me, and he's going to establish his kingdom through me. And I will allow him to do that because I'm listening to something.